Welcome to another episode of my podcast, That's Fine With Me. Today we're talking about the it couple of Hollywood. It's Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, and mainly we're going to be talking about Blake Lively, but Ryan Reynolds is going to be dragged to this mess because, well, he's a husband. He has to take action and participate in some ways. So Blake Lively was born in California, Los Angeles, maybe not particularly in Los Angeles, but really, really close to Los Angeles. And her mom, she was a talent scout, and her dad was an actor, later maybe a director. And her mother's name was Alan, and her dad's name was Ernie Lively. So she has an older brother, and she has, if I'm not mistaken, like 3 half siblings. It's not the point. It's not the case. Her parents didn't really want to leave her with babysitters. That's why they drag her everywhere around, specifically their actor lessons. And she was learning a lot from these lessons. And she was seeing how her parents were interacting, how they were showing some lessons. And she didn't really want to be an actress. She wanted to go to Stanford, if I'm not mistaken, but it didn't really happen. Her first debut was in 1998 in her dad's directed film that was called Sandman, if I'm mistaken, and she didn't have a huge role, just, partially was there. And her career started in 2005 and maybe 2006, but then it skyrocketed in 2007 when she got a leading part in Gossip Girl. And she was actually a college student back then, and she asked if she could, study in a college and maybe attend Gossip Girl. But later she acknowledged that whenever you have any, let's say, agreements, it should be signed and it should be in written, because that otherwise it's some just like words that you can't prove later on. And of course, in 2010, if I'm not mistaken, she acted in The Green Lantern with Ryan Reynolds, where they actually had a huge chemistry on set, and they were in love, madly in love. And a lot of people are speculating right now that in 2010, if I'm not mistaken, he got into divorce, and kind of like ugly divorce. It wasn't ugly, but at some point people were saying that Scarlett Johansson was treated badly in this divorce because he was already dating Blake Lively, though both of them are not saying it was true or not. Well, we don't really know this. The main idea is they fell in love when they were filming, they were shooting the film. I'd say maybe like Ryan Reynolds, he was a famous actor, and Blake was famous for her role in Gossip Girl, but I can't say they were huge back then. And maybe only in 2016, if I'm not mistaken, when he got a role of Deadpool, it literally brought him fame, a huge fan. Though I'm a huge fan of Ryan Reynolds, I really like his films and when he acted before Deadpool. Honestly, Deadpool is probably not my favorite film from Marvel. It's from Marvel. And it's probably not my favorite film because a lot of those jokes and the sense of humor is not even black sense of humor, but I don't really like a lot of the sexual jokes. Most of them are not really funny to me. I'm not saying it should be the same way for you guys. And Blake was supportive all this time. And of course, you remember those like Met Gala when Blake was wearing the beautiful gown and Ryan was like watching her and he was astonished and amazed. And kind of like everyone voted that Blake had the most beautiful dress of all, and it was on theme. So yeah, they were the it couple for quite a long period of time, especially when Deadpool first part came out. And they have a lot of kids, if I'm mistaken, like 4 girls, maybe 5. I don't know. They have plenty of kids. And frankly speaking, I really liked Blake Lively all this time. Not really liked, I wasn't a huge fan, but when I watched Vogue, it was a recent, let's say, video where she was teaching key lime pie recipe. The energy was really positive. She was radiant. She was beautiful. She was sharing a lot of things. And she was joking, as always, about her, like, OnlyFans let's say appearance when she's squeezing limes and all of it. Like, she was joking a lot, but she was very, very, let's say, not even kind, but attentive to every single person when she was trying to feed them with a key lime pie. That was interesting, and I really liked the energy. But I want to tell you, a couple of months ago, I saw a trailer for like a promo for a film It Ends With Us, and honestly, my first impression was there was a rom-com, and I didn't really think this film was about domestic abuse. No, domestic violence. I didn't really know that, and at first I was like, okay, a new film, that's great. And I know she was directing some of Taylor Swift's films, and I know she is probably not maybe the best friend, but she's a great friend of Taylor Swift, and people really liked her for that. But then I guess It Ends With Us film actually shifted her, not even her perspective, but shifted the image of Blake Lively, because she is probably rude. I guess she might be rude, and a lot of people are pointing this out that actually a lot of her old interviews were saying that her jokes were insensitive, they were improper, and people didn't really like the attitude she was given, and no one really cared because, like, yeah, Gossip Girl was huge as probably the Vampire Diaries back in the day, but it wasn't that huge. She wasn't a star, a Hollywood like great actress. She was known for this role, but she wasn't the it girl back then. So I guess a lot of this gave her slack because no one really paid attention to some old interviews. And now when everything is like huge and big with It Ends With Us film premiere, everyone is digging about her past, and they're not happy with her attitude. And of course, I guess all of you know, if you don't know, it's a famous interview. Not even famous, it wasn't public up until now, when one of the oldest interviewer, she didn't really want to post an interview, and then the timing isn't always right. She published an interview where she congratulated Blake Lively on her bump, and Lively said the same thing back, like, congratulating her your bump, though the interviewer wasn't pregnant. And all of it is so interesting from an angle, like, why do you do that? Maybe she had some insecurities, maybe she had some about her body, maybe she was insecure about her baby, she didn't really want to bring this topic up, or she was super protective and all of that. And with other interviews with her co-stars in Gossip Girl, she called them monkeys, she called them like, oh, all of us know that blondes are better, sweeter, or something like that. So it wasn't really good. She loves these details, she's obsessing over details, she's obsessing over like putting people in their own place, and she was directing a couple more, let's say, films, and not even films, but I guess she was directing Taylor Swift's, let's say, video clip. And she was there telling everyone how to act. That's why with the It Ends With Us, of course, she got her, like, she was a producer in this film. And I guess with Jason Baldoni, if I'm mistaken, they had, I guess, certain differences, because in some interviews, she was talking about Lana Del Rey, if I'm mistaken, song for the movie. And someone said, praise her for the choice of music. And Blake Lively mentioned something like, oh, did you really like it? Because not everyone were thinking this was a great idea for the film, but I guess it's so cool. And Blake Lively, the promotion of the film is showing that she didn't really want to bring up serious issues, and she was joking around a lot, as she does every single time. And I was surprised that people were surprised she was doing the press review, the press tour, the way she was doing this, because we can see a lot of her interviews, a lot of her, let's say, films and film premieres, they do include her joking around, but her jokes are quite dark, and she has black humor, as well as her husband. I don't know if it's the strategic way for them to like laugh and joke around about each other, but they're doing this to other people, and not every single person is willing to take this as a joke, like some comments as a joke. And a lot of the videos are showing that she was joking with one interviewer, and that in a little bit different interview, she's not like supporting this joke, and she's quite defensive. And let's talk about the film. I don't remember the name of the film, but she mentioned to an interviewer her parents paid for the role to get her casted for the role. And the next interviewer said that she wasn't probably like sitting there or doing something. She was super defensive. She's like, oh, I'm going to quiz you at the end of the interview. Maybe you didn't really watch the movie. And he was a little bit in a shock, because he didn't understand where did this come from. She mentioned this in one of the interviews, like a couple of times maybe, and now he was doing the same thing, and she got defensive, and she got into this like aggressive mode. I can't say I didn't read a book. Okay, let me tell you guys, I didn't read a book. I actually hate dramas, and I hate when it's about some domestic violence, DVs. Okay, let's say it this way. It's not about hate. I know a lot of people are suffering, and frankly speaking, my mom and I suffered the same way. My biological dad, we actually experienced domestic violence. I don't remember most of it. I was a child. I was maybe like almost 4 years old, and my mom got into divorce because of the domestic violence. But Honestly, I don't really like reading about this. I don't really like it. It's a little bit different type for me, and I feel that I'm gonna cry, and it's gonna stay in my head for quite a long period of time. But I know that a lot of people are willing to read dramas and they love dramas. It's about not even perception, but it's about your interest and your likes, to your liking. Let's say I know that I wouldn't probably watch this film, or maybe I would. I don't know. And Jason Baldoni, if I'm mistaken, he's Jason Baldoni. He was a director. He purchased the copyrights in 2019, and Blake Lively, she was a producer and she got a leading part, but at the same time she interfered in a directing mode, and she was suggesting a lot of her ideas to the movie, and they got, I guess, separate ways, because like Jason had his own ideas and he wanted to show the film from a perspective of how you can survive a domestic violence, what is important for victims to know about domestic violence, and maybe even show the way, take that men, they shouldn't get into a relationship if they have trauma and they can hurt someone. They at least have to figure this out themselves first, and then maybe go into some healthy relationship. And unfortunately, Blake Lively, she was promoting this film from a little bit different side. First of all, she wanted to show the film from a perspective of like, the Deadpool and her film at the same time. So they wanted to create like two big hits that happened with Barbie and some other film. I don't remember the name of the film, but it was simultaneously released and it was promoted simultaneously as like two films. For now, they, I guess, try to do something similar, as well as Hugh Jackman appeared on It Ends With Us premiere. Like, how did it happen? The leading actor, Jason Baldoni, wasn't there, but Hugh Jackman was there promoting the film. And of course, the weirdest part was with Blake Lively showing up to the premiere, of course, with her husband. And she was talking about her dress. She was talking about some flowers, and a lot of people are criticizing her for like fashion choice. They're criticizing for not bringing up the most important idea of the book, domestic violence. They're criticizing her for, this black humor, mean girl behavior. All of it is just coming together and it's crumbling. Of course, I can like defend Blake Lively in some ways and say she's been this way all the time, and you really love that. You really like the jokes, especially when they were posting something on Instagram and everyone was like, oh, everyone wants to be the same couple. Oh, everyone wants to be them. But right now they're like, oh, something is not okay in the relationship. If they're joking this way, maybe they're going to separate. Why? Is it because of the premiere, or maybe poor choice in commercialing, like maybe advertising the film, or it's a real problem that is triggering people? I guess they don't really have anything in their relationship. She said that they love improvising, they love joking around, and I do think they're kind of like perfect for each other, because both of them are into these jokes, and they've been together for like 8 years. Maybe if they started dating in 2010, then 10 years. Not 10 years. They've been together for 12 years. Yeah, for 12 or maybe 14 years. 12 or 14 years. And they have great kids together, and they have the same sense of humor. So I don't really see any problem in their relationship. It's more like maybe the tactics. They should have probably invested their money in producing some rom-comedy. That would have been a huge hit for them, and especially the hair care line, if I'm mistaken. She has some conditioners and shampoos that she wanted to promote earlier, before, I guess, film, or maybe later the premiere, but something didn't happen and they had to promote this simultaneously. And what's about DV and the hair line, the new company of hair care, let's say, line, it's a little bit insensitive to promote this simultaneously. It looks like a cash grab. I don't really think this was a wise decision to promote this, like simultaneously, but it's something that they have. And of course, I want to talk a little bit about her, let's say, birthday. She celebrated birthday on 25th of August, and she turned 37, if I'm mistaken. She was born in 1987, and they had some celebration. It was quiet. They weren't posting any photos or anything like this, and they celebrated this in Taylor Swift's house, if I'm mistaken. And of course, a lot of people are bringing the topic of Blake Lively, not even promoting, but posting some photos in Adidas stuff, or maybe Balenciaga, the scandal that happened a couple of years ago, and Blake was a supporter for kids that were exploited in a sexual way, and then she was supporting a brand that was doing pretty much similar to the kids. And then people are dragging the couple, for a plantation wedding. So if you don't really know, in 2012, if I'm not mistaken, Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, they got married in plantation, where a lot of slavery killings happened, and people thought it was insensitive to get your vows in a place where people suffered and they died. And of course, they apologized for this, let's say, the wedding venue, and they said that they really liked some Pinterest photos, and they didn't really think of the meaning behind that. Though it's weird, because like, a wedding cannot be planned within a day or two, maybe a couple of months if you really needed that. But still, a lot of people were involved, and like, a lot of guests were invited. And I guess some of these guests, some of these people, some of the planners, they actually knew about history and meaning. But it's their business. We're not going to get involved in this, because they were like apologetic, and they donated some money. And it's always about them, because actually Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, they are donating a lot of money in charity. They are ambassadors for charity organizations, which is great. And it's not about today's, let's say, premiere that happened a couple of months ago. They've been doing this for years, and it's not only about some PR or marketing. They're actually invested in this. And when people say Black humor is a coping mechanism with, like, when people are in pain, in mental pain, they actually prefer this coping mechanism as Black humor to deal with their issues and problems. And probably both of them are literally suffering some trauma and some childhood issues. That is the main reason why they chose the path of Black humor. I understand not every single person can understand this, especially when Blake Lively, she got caught on a field, and people asked, like, oh, I want to propose, or something like this, like, I love this woman, I don't remember this, and she said to this girl, like, you should leave him. And people say it's insensitive, but it wasn't that insensitive a couple of months ago, before it ends with us. People were like, yeah, ha ha ha, she has a great sense of humor. And she had the sense of humor all the time. No one really cared about that. My opinion, what do I actually think about all this, like, interviews, Vogue cover? By the way, she's going to be on the Vogue cover this September, if I'm not mistaken. And when she filmed her key lime pie, I don't really know. Her energy is quite soothing, and she gives this, mom energy. I feel she has sometimes really bad sense of humor, and maybe she doesn't understand that. And considering the situation with the Deadpool and all those jokes, I'm sorry for saying that. If you really liked, Deadpool, that's great. But for me, that was mainly like toilet jokes. And yeah, I guess those were not good. But I know that Ryan Reynolds, he writes a lot of, not even jokes, but scenes to other films, and he's participating in Blake Lively's projects. I actually watched some video about Scarlett, his ex-wife, and people were saying he's a control freak, and he loves this control, to have control over his, like, spouses or maybe like girlfriends. And I guess Blake is more like, fine, like, I don't really care if you interfere, and I interfere in your job, like, not even a job, but like in your work. And she participated in some of his films and scripts, as well as he participated in this film, and he was rewriting the scene, the roof, if I'm not mistaken. It ends with us, and people were waiting for the scene. Actually, I have no idea what they are talking about, because I did not watch the film. I did not read the book. It's not even to my liking. And I really like the Jason Baldoni. He was promoting the film from perspective of a person that just, like, look at this relationship. You shouldn't stay. You shouldn't be treated this way. And there's always light at the end of the tunnel. And it's always hard to, be in this relationship, but it's not the end of your life if you leave. Yeah. And Blake, she's joking around when people ask, like, what happens if you meet someone who has this issue and ask you how to cope with it? And she's like, maybe I should give my location or my address or my phone. That was rude. I do think it was rude, because, like, they wanted to see not flowers and butterflies. They wanted to see a real meaning behind this book. I didn't really like the author as well, and her, let's say, energy, because she came from abusive relationship herself. Not herself, but her mother was in a DV relationship, and that was the let's say, drive to write a book, and the release of book happened in 2016, and right now she's promoting this with a little bit different agenda, as if it wasn't the meaning of the book. She was willing to participate in the coloring book and some nail polishes and promoting, and that was a cash grab. And I guess Blake Lively is promoting this from the same perspective, like flowers and like weird fashion choices. Let's talk about my dress. Let's talk about this. But another point here, it's fine for Blake Lively to be this way. If you watch some old interviews, if you watch some of her Vogue, let's say, interviews and the recipes she was sharing, she's a rambler, and she could talk about one thing and then in a second she would talk about some other thing. As well as the premiere, when people asked her some questions, she was like, oh, is it about Deadpool? Are they sold out? Or something like this. And I do think that was genuine. I think it was genuine because most of the time there are people who cannot concentrate on certain things, let's say, for a long period of time, and they always get distracted and they always find their way out. A lot of people are showing the videos where they gifted, let's say, Blake Lively some bracelet, and she said, oh, it's not going with my outfit, but I will promise to wear this next time. And some other people that were gifted these bracelets, they would, put this on without a doubt. Again, another thing, she's a Virgo. I mean, Blake Lively, she's a Virgo, and I can see her, stressing about some details, especially in her outfit, and especially being taken, like photos. And I can relate, maybe. Of course, for someone, it's not a big deal. For someone, it's a big deal. And I don't really want to blame her for that specific moment, but I do blame her for like a bomb comment. I do blame her about the not having an eye contact with an interviewer. I do blame her for like calling her like co-stars, let's say, a monkey or something like that. I do blame her for, let's say, this offensive comments about her not singing in some movie, and her parents like paid for the role, for the cast, and then the next day she's like offensive and she's like, no, I'm gonna quiz you because you didn't apparently watch the film. And yeah, so I have my pros and cons. I do think she's not a bad person, but she's a little bit weird. And I guess when they're in this constant mode of, let's say, joking around with her husband and improvising with her husband, it's always really hard not to stay, let's say, related and not to be carried away. And of course, yeah, she does have some comments, insensitive comments, and joking sensitively to other people and maybe about their problems. But whenever she thinks and maybe sees that she crossed the line, she would apologize, as well as she had with the princess. And when people didn't know about her disease, that she needed to be photoshopped for the photo, Blake Lively posted some insensitive, let's say, photo where she was photoshopped for the campaign. And then when she realized the problem was in the disease, she kind of posted that she was apologizing to the whole situation. That's why I feel like she's not a bad person. She's probably not a mean person, and maybe not mean. Of course, she's a Napa girl, maybe Napa kid, and she was raised and she was born in a family of actors, and probably she was in this, let's say, field for a long period of time. And it's a little bit different sense of the world, a grip of the real world when you were born in a bubble, let's say, bubble of people that were rich, successful actors and all of it. It's a little bit hard. It's going to be different. But at the same time, I don't really think she's a bad person who loves humiliating people, who loves, it's just, she has a sense of humor that probably not every single person can recognize and can relate to, and it works with her husband, and she thinks it's going to work with every single person. I don't know, maybe. About Ryan Reynolds, I really like him, but the Deadpool for me was a little bit too much. The jokes were a little bit too much. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I was surprised that Hugh Jackman actually agreed on this role, and yeah, I don't know. So what do you think, guys? What is your opinion? Because I think maybe someone would agree or disagree, but I don't really think she's a bad person. The timing was bad, and her sense of humor is not for everyone. That's what I think. But for interviews, yeah, I think she was insensitive. Maybe she didn't understand some of their comments, that's why she got offensive. But yeah. Maybe it's more about the way she could have been nicer to people, and she could have been apologetic, and maybe not to post this on Instagram, but just to show her real face and to show her real emotions. Because when she was joking around, that was her there, and when you're apologizing, just make sure that you're still there. And that's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. That's fine with me. Let me know in the comments your opinion. Let me know in the comments maybe like what you want to know in my next podcast, and love you all so much. I'm going to see you in my next video. Bye bye.